Hello everybody, this is Starman, and welcome back to Let's Play Betrayal at Krondor. Well, last time you'll remember, we walked around the whole area around Highcastle and retrieved a bag of grain for the Temple of Dala, giving Owyn a now frankly insane defense skill, which he is going to need. And I said at the end of last time we were probably going to head into the Dimwood. I changed my mind about that because I did a little bit of research. As you may remember from the last chapter, we haven't had many fights walking around here. Not much opportunity for earning treasure. Granted, that is partly because I've been using our wonderful little tuning fork to drive away all the troll combats, but I found that there is nothing in Chapter 2 that opens up in the Dimwood that isn't there in Chapter 1. Now, there will be a quest we can do there in Chapter 3. But that is a bit ahead. So we're going to go ahead and cut eastward, trying to get to Decamp on the Teeth and maybe Northwarden this time. So let's go ahead and turn around, and brand new day, getting sunny. And there's one of the Halfgate sister houses that we got the leather leggings from. Amazing how much faster and easier this game is when you go off the track, isn't it? And boom, I think we're into camp. Abandon inn. And 68 gold. Yeah, James says, considering the circumstances, which I'll be darned if I remember what those circumstances were. Owyn shouted an alarm. "Gods, it just came from nowhere," he said, pointing to the still forming figures before them. "Grab your weapons, we're under attack!" Let's go ahead and try one more. Yeah, I think Owyn has definitely progressed into a better fighter than James at this point. And the party's booze increased, but there are no bodies to loot. James knocked angrily on the door. From inside the house, there had some mumbled grunts and curses. At last, the door swung open, and a little man with a wisp of graying beard joined them in front of the house. "Pah! I figured that spell might go fuzzy on me. No one was supposed to get past my little pets. Now I have to reconjure me some We were very nearly killed by your little pets. Not a very hospitable way to welcome friendly visitors. Never minding the fact that I didn't invite you, but if you got hurt, I wouldn't mean for no innocent folks to get involved. Is this the only guests I receive these days come from the Northlands? You have friends in the Northlands? Friends? No, not as such. The visitors I receive are never welcome. Goblins, mostly, sent from old Bellycon to pinch my spellbooks and formulas. Don't much care for me interfering with them, working spells and such for Baron Gabbard at Northwarden. I was hoping these illusions I was making would be more effective, but apparently they aren't worth a gnat's spit. Need to work on them more. Let me give you something so you can get yourselves fixed up. That won't be necessary. We're fine. Who's saying anything about you? Baron gets wind I went around inflicting grief on innocent bystanders. I'd be dicing tears to the kitchen boys or singing to us old mash-brain Tamney. You'll find a pouch of 200 gold in that little chest over in the corner. If you go north from there a bit, you'll run across the Temple of Tiff. I imagine they can put you to rights. But a word of advice. You see them buggies in front of you in the future, instead of fighting them, run the other way. This is Patrus. He is a bit of a character. And we will get to know him quite a bit more in Chapter 5. And it's odd that we don't get a comment on this from Owyn at this point, but if we'll check his background. Yeah, it does not mention him by name, but the bit about how Owyn was able to secrete some money to hire a magical tutor against his father's wishes, that magical tutor was Patrus, and the novel Krondor the Betrayal goes into their relationship a little bit more. Although if we check our inventory, I said check our inventory, we do not actually get the 200 gold, and bit of a glitch there. And Patrus is of course gone, so we did that fight for nothing other than the note of, hey, there's that. But the Temple of Tiff is indeed there, but James is the one who seems to have gotten the worst of it, oddly enough. And another thing I discovered when I was reading up on this section is that the bit with the password that we encountered earlier, apparently they bugged it in the second edition of the game, because originally you could use this place to learn a spell called Mind Melt, which is, well, rather nasty spell, but you aren't supposed to get until later in the game. Like we're not overpowered enough as it is, as you've noticed. What the heck, we'll try it again anyway. And yes, here we go, Grumbling Magician. No use for clerical oilcloth. And yeah, can't. That's the place where the game is, where you can learn the spell. And 57 gold, not bad. I don't think anything is quite so effective for your barding skill as having one person in the party who knows how to play. Well, heck, we might just break the land speed record in getting to Northwarden the rate we're going. It's odd, but for all the talk of turmoil in the northern part of the kingdom, it's surprisingly free of Mordhel troops at the moment. And yeah, too far north again. I was in fact cutting this way because I was trying to trigger something I thought would happen that you had to go north of Northwarden to do. Maybe we have to get closer to the castle first. Yep, Northwarden. No, nothing hidden there. And all the stuff I sold before is still here. Yeah, let's see if there's anything in the palace. Hey! It's Brian Blessed! Chiswick! Fresh horse! No, actually, this is Baron Gabbett, the commander of the garrison here, finally showing up. Oh, let's do the Brian Blessed whatnot. You should know that there are not many things that anger me, but as I feel I've never been very angry until this very moment. If I have given you offense... Offense? Every day my men ride to the border of the Northlands, so MacDillicon's obscene dogs. Every day they thrust their lives into the breach to buy another day of the kingdom's freedom. These mountaintops are littered with the bodies of men who have given their lives in that cause. And you spit on their graves by bringing a Mordell into my castle? I should hang you from the bailey. He has cause to be here. Prince Rufa believes this Mordell might have information that can lead us to the Nighthawks. Damn Prince Rufa! He has no conception what the Mordell are like, and the fact that he has taken this Mordell's word proves it. Senior Locklear has told me the story about this Mordell. I no more believe in his virtue than I believe in Delicon's strength. Baron, I have a duty to perform, and if in the name of that duty I must defend a Baron, then so be it. As I have had cause to come to this place, I need a few answers, and I sincerely believe it would benefit the both of us to help one another. If you choose to block me, then I am sure Prince Rufa would be more than happy to inform King Liam that one of his subjects has deemed himself above imperial courtesy. Senor, as a border baron, I owe fealty to King Liam and he alone. What Prince Rufa may or may not do is his own affair. But by answering your questions and be shot of you all the more quickly, I am at your disposal. What do you want? Helping out. Who's in charge of your guards here? I'd be interested in speaking to him. My guards are hard at work. If you wish to arrange to speak to the guards, I can arrange for you to walk guard duty, senor. Otherwise, I'll not have their schedules disrupted. Shall I have Lieutenant Aaron put you on the night watch? Yes. Sounds marvelous. When do I start? Lieutenant Aaron, I have a new recruit I'd like for you to sign. It was late. Breathing warmth into his cupped hands, James paced his frost-touch flagstones between the postern and bailey gates, and looked out into the darkness beyond the castle. Nothing was moving in the mists. Like the world within the gates, things seemed too orderly in the extreme. Too orderly. Even in Krondor, the prince's control was far from complete, with the upright man running matters in the sewers, and the scoundrels of various stripes calling the shots in the poorer quarters. Here it was as if the world outside Northwarden simply didn't exist in any other context than how Baron Gabbett dictated to his men. It'd be entirely too easy for an outside force to take advantage of the rigor with which he ruled his men. It's time Jimmy the Hand did something a little off schedule, James muttered, scaling the bay wall with a little trouble. Settling himself in a patch of shadow, he focused his eyes on the courtyard below and folded his arms across his chest. Now it was time for the real guard duty. I'd be most interested to know why you felt it necessary to have me wakened in the middle of the night. It would have been preferable if you had come when I'd called. Your guard shifts are utterly inadequate, Baron. Last night I was on guard duty. I happened to vary the schedule a bit and see what happened. When I watched the bailey gate, I was to be on the other side of the castle. I noticed a soldier slipping a note to another man who was waiting outside the castle gate. A few minutes later, when I shifted to the opposite side, again I saw another instance of someone attempting to steal a griefmaker from the castle armory. I stopped him, naturally. There were several other instances. And the note passed through the bailey gate? Harmless. A love letter from a soldier quartered here named Corby to a girl named Thea. You become too regimented here. Your schedule was known outside the castle, very likely made known by a spy working within these very walls. I urge you to take greater precautions and to reevaluate your staff. It could be the downfall of this castle. I shall consider it. In the meantime, I ask you to accept something of a token of gratitude. There's a suit of Likio armor that no longer have a need for. You may have it if you wish. It makes no difference to me. I think we know what we came here to find out. If you would do me... It would do me good to know that if we ever meet again, you will treat your royal guests with a little more courtesy. I will take it under advisement. Please find your own way out. Thank you. Very well. I thank you for your outstanding hospitality. We shall be going now. And I don't think we have the room for the armor. Okay, we do have room for the armor. So let's go back and sell the armor. But yeah, this is a problem that came up in the books as well. The border barons, no matter which part of the kingdom they're in, they do swear fealty directly to the king, and make a big deal about how I can only give or, I can only receive orders from the king. So if, say, the Prince of Krondor, who is technically the second most powerful noble in the kingdom, comes in with news that, hey, we just came from the Northlands, there's an army of about 50,000 Mordell coming to kill you all, they'll say, well, I cannot abandon my post without orders from the king. So yeah, most of the Border Baron commanders are kind of dicks, but since they typically tend to send the commanders who were kind of incompetent here as punishment, that's not much of a shocker. Well, hey, 50 gold, 50 gold. Let's see, can I buy a fresh armor's hammer? I can. Give that to Gorath. And I think we're all geared up pretty well for the moment. And got that rapier back to new. Alright. Well, you're supposed to be able to run into Tamni the Minstrel. Ah, there we go. Music drifted on the wind. At first, believing himself losing his wits to the grind of traveling, James paused, then picked out the very melodic strains of the Fishwife's Daughter coming from a clump of trees near them. Abruptly, the music stopped as an unhappy-looking young man dropped out of a tree, his lute slung over his back. Please tell me he hasn't sent you. I'm too exhausted right now to plan. I've run all the things I know into the ground. I've had it to die a day in the keep when the minstrel was without charm. What's bothering you? When one of the new Baron's new recruits asked for musical instruction, I heartily agreed, sacrificing my morning walks to make time for his lessons. We started immediately. I demonstrated for him a simple royal scale, ascending eighth notes, progression from C abdicant to A coordinate in half steps, kingdom time. Even after 2 weeks, he couldn't find all the notes. He refuses to practice, and he can't tell the difference between a tuned and untuned lute, and he patently refuses to learn how to read minstrel writs. I don't understand why he desired lessons at all. Perhaps he thought it would be easier. Everyone does. They believe you simply pick up an instrument and it magically makes sounds of its own accord, without so much as a whit of your own concentration. Learning music takes discipline, the same as learning how to use a sword. Well, perhaps you could give us a lesson sometime. You're in luck. I'm free just now, and I've recently restringed my lute. It is, of course, a matter of a small fee, which Baron Gabbett imposes for services rendered outside the garrison complement. It'd be 75 gold sovereigns for the lesson. I realize it's a bit steep, but part of the cost covers the price of the practice lute itself. Do you still want the instruction? Not just yet. Because I'm going to see if we can boost our barding skill a bit more. Although that shouldn't be possible for Owyn, but wouldn't it be kind of awesome if we could get 120%? I think so. Okay, so walk some distance away. Have you changed your mind about the music? Listen, it's a handy thing to know how to play a lute when a lady flutters her eyes at you. 75 sovereigns may gain you a night in paradise. What do you say? We are your obedient pupils, musician. I already know where I'm going to find the notes on the lute, but beyond that I'm completely in the dark. I'm sure of it. You'll find a lute there behind you. Play all scale of the notes from middle C to in the G quarter notes, playing only the quarter notes, then come back down to middle C again. Good. That is the royal scale. Now I want you to play the same scale, but instead of playing E coordinate, play the E abdicant. All the rest of the notes are the same. Exactly. That's the noble scale. Together, the royal scale and noble scale are the most basic of our music, though we occasionally use the Empress or Keshian scale. The Emperor's scale is... I know it sounds complicated, but you may master the lute yet. I want you to repeat the things I've taught you for an hour every day. Once you can play those comfortably, we can have another listen. Forgive me, but I have to go and prepare some songs for Baron Gabbett's dinner tomorrow night. Take care and keep practicing with your lute. We shall. Thanks for the listen. Okay, so that has boosted James up to 58. Owyn cannot improve, but it has boosted Gorath to 59. And what the heck? This is a better than average practice lute, it looks like. And I'm going ahead and boosting James's because, spoiler, James will be separated from the rest of the party for the rest of the game at some point. And while it will will make very little use for him to have a high bard skill. Somebody has to. Fascinating, isn't it? Well, I'll go ahead and get to 60 and then stop there just so we can see how far that boosted it. "97%. Ye gods." Okay, you know what? Heck of it. Everybody in the party is becoming a bard. We will forget this quest for king and country and travel the land, going to all the taverns and making all the monies. All the monies, I say. You want to know the really obscene thing? That's going to make this even more obnoxious and annoying. I mean, apart from me repeatedly clicking this when I could be avoiding fights with trolls. It's that this is not the last time we get to do something with Tamni. 95, well, not quite so able a pupil. But... and yes, we've been sleeping for, well, quite some time it looks like. Enough that we started starving to death because of not eating or sleeping. Have you changed your mind about the music lesson? Ah, that's what I thought. You haven't gotten around to tuning it today. Okay, strum the top string. Since somebody stole my tuning fork last week, we'll have to call that string E. Now, put your finger on the 5th fret of the 1st string and strum the 1st and 2nd strings together. Okay, that's good. The 2nd string is in tune. Try doing the same thing with the 2nd and 3rd strings. 3rd string is a bit abdicant. Try the tuning peg for the 3rd string until the two are in harmony. Try the 4th string now. Good. 5th string's a bit out. Rather than putting your finger on the 5th fret, put your finger on the 4th fret of the 4th string and strum the 4th and the 5th. And the last string is like the 2nd string, finger on the 5th fret. Excellent. Unfortunately, I don't have time to teach you anything else, but at least now you know how to tune your instrument. After all, if you lose that tune, how you know if you're playing the song correctly? So that has just increased the party's barding ability. And so we now have a little under 1,000 gold, but everybody has a barding skill of 100. Not a bad investment, all things considered, given the money it's made it, but completely unnecessary since only one person can play at a time. But still, there it is. And it's not like we don't have money to burn at this point. Well, just about. Well, we got some time left before we hit my maximum mark on one of these videos, so why the heck not see if we can go and visit Owyn's uncle, his real uncle, and see what happens this time around. Nice to see all this warm chat and friendly hospitality, even though nothing seems to be happening. Oh, what the heck. We'll stay in the inn this time. And we bankrupted the gambler. 13 for the night. Easy enough. And yes, the woman of negotiable affection still will not talk to us. I know it's a bit rude of me to assume that the lady not wearing very much apart from a nightgown, and Didn't get this one in Chapter 1, oddly enough, but it makes more sense for Locklear than James, but never mind. I know this place. I stayed in this house a year ago while journeying to Northwarden to see a friend. There's a beautiful young lady named Krondor living there. We kind of got friendly over supper. In the middle of the night, she sucked into my room. He knocked on the door, beaming with anticipation. A moment later, a beautiful young woman answered. Yes, can I... James? A smile of recognition crossed her lips, but was quickly replaced by an expression of great concern. I am... Before she could finish her sentence, she was brushed aside by two rather large hands, one of which curled into a rather large fist and hit James rather hard in the face. When his vision cleared sufficiently, the woman stood over him. I'd like you to meet my husband. I told him all about you. And yes, if we look at James, well, normally you lose some health, or at least it did in the first version of the game. And given Locklear's reputation for being a womanizer, womanizer. Yes, I'm singing Brittany. What of it? And here's where we got that lightning staff before. One thing we might as well do while we're here. This town well from before. Yeah, I clicked through that too quickly, but we open up the secret little compartment in the well, and it gives us this chess piece. Someone paid a great deal to have the chess piece made. The marbled soapstone from which it had been carved was of a type available only from a hellish region within Great Kesh known as the Jalpur Desert, an arena also known for its Gjiddil, a Keshian brotherhood of thief assassins. Trust James to recognize that. A girl crossed the fields. Lacking the arrogant bearing of her father, she moved like a wisp of smoke, her tread so light it seemed she floated rather than walked through the rustling weeds. Flittering to Owyn's side, she kissed him lightly on the cheek. You are so much taller than I remember. You've gone and grown up on me, haven't you? I can't remain a little girl for all my life, cousin. Father would have me married to some Vidcomte somewhere spinning tapestries if he has way, but I'm a little too headstrong for the like of most of my suitors. You know, I always hoped you would come and swoop me up to some strange place. Third cousin of a minor count? I don't think your father would stand for it. Besides, I can't conscience any girl that likes burial ball tourneys. Pig, are you going to introduce me to your rather handsome friends here, or shall I perish of curiosity? Perhaps later, if I'm feeling up to it. I suggest you find a way to, or I'll have father put you in irons, that you're a relative notwithstanding. So what is you tromping all the way up to Cavall Keep? Now let's see, news and unpleasant past. We'll ask about news. So when is the suitor going to snatch you up? Are there any that are even in good standing? There are two, neither of whom father likes, but then again he never likes anyone I do. One is Myron, my father's solicitor, who lives just outside Cavall Keep with his daughter Amy. She has of a minor claim to nobility because his brother is an earl someplace, but father thinks his connections are too tenuous for us to consider. And what about the second suitor? He's a businessman from Kennington Rush named Navon Dusandu. I like him, though he can be a bit intense at times. I like to talk. He's always asking me about some point about mythology or never. He doesn't mind a girl who reads. And unpleasant past, because you remember there was some discussion about this when we talked to Count Corvallis last time. Your father says he doesn't like your suitor Navin because he keeps bringing up painful memories about the keep when he asks about the family legends. The death of your mother, the fire that burned the keep down. It isn't fair for him to hold a guy against Navin. He's interested in her family and me, so naturally he has questions about the keep. Wouldn't you be interested in the history of someone you want to marry? Wouldn't you want to know them as well as you know your own family? It isn't so much the death of my mother that bothers. Father, though he does as does Neville's death all those years ago, but Father insists to clinging to a silly coincidence. Coincidence? What's a coincidence? Navon's last name is Desandu. It's the same last name as the man who constructed Faber's wine cellar, the one that collapsed. Faber's holding it against him that he happens to bear the same last name. It's so ridiculous. I'll go ahead and ask about Neville. I don't remember much about how Neville died. It was such a long time ago. Well, you couldn't have known much about it, so far off in Tyburn. Mother and father were both in such grief they didn't want a spectacle made of his death. Neville was down in Cavall Run, sent down by father to get a keg of Queegie and sour from the wine cellar. We had guessed that day. Cavall Run? You remember, underneath the keep, all those tunnels that seemed to stretch for miles? We never did know for sure how extensive it was. I used to love to take walks down there in the dark and just think I might have some time to myself. It's one of the things I miss most about the keep, not having tunnels to play in anymore. When Neville didn't come back from getting the keg, father went down to the run after him. The wine was served, and then the appetizers, then the first course. Still father hadn't come back. The second course was served, the third, and then finally father appeared. He told us the tunnel had collapsed and that Neville was trapped beneath it all. We never were able to dig it out enough to recover the body. And family legends. Your father said Neville kept at you about the family legends. He was fascinated by anything having to do with the Corvallis family. He would ask us where the spyglass had come from and how long the keep had been standing and where the Garda Ravace went to. We talked about everything. And asked about the sword. What does the Garda Ravace have to do with our family history? I thought it was only some kind of legend about the days when only the elves lived here. The part of the legend everybody knows has to do with the elves, but for a time the Garda Ravace was in our family's possession, or so family legend has it. Upon her 14th birthday, the Lady of Cavall Keep was given a special present by her elven servant to give her husband, Lord Corvallis. Yeah, the fact that there's an elven servant makes this whole story suspect. A sword that would make him great among men, whereupon she ran to his bedchamber to present him with a great gift. But upon opening the door, she was shaken by a great evil. Within her hand the sword blade began to glow, and she screamed as she raised the blade over her head and cleaved her husband's head from off his shoulders. From there she went from one child's chamber to the next until she had slain all of her children by Lord Corvallis. And once that was done, she ran mad and was seen in Cavall no more. How charming. You don't have it laying about somewhere, do you? Be nice to me, or I may give the sword to you. No, the legend goes on to say it was eventually removed from the family after the episode was repeated by later generations of other branches of our family. A book I have tells about where it went, but I lent the book to Navin so he could look it over. That's weird. I thought the Garda Ravace was only supposed to work on more at hell. It's a legend. Nobody ever said that a legend has to be consistent. Well, cousin, as nice as been seeing you again, we've got to be off. Things to do, dragons to battle. Fine, go off and abandon me here so I can expire of boredom in this sheepherder's paradise. The most excitement I've seen in months is watching when the pigs got loose in Cavall Keep and were running through the streets. You'll live. Take care of yourself, Ugyne, and tell your father hello if you see him before I do. So yes, that is Owyn's cousin, who we will get to speak to a bit more in Chapter 3. And we will go ahead and stop here, and next time we will go talk to Count Corvallis and see what else he may have to say to us in Chapter 2. We'll see you next time.